Imagine there's a man you've never heard of. No Wikipedia page, no Instagram, no LinkedIn. If you searched his name, his real name, you'd find nothing. Not because the results were deleted, but because they never existed in the first place. He doesn't give speeches. He doesn't shake hands at rallies. He doesn't sit in the Oval Office. But every major decision that comes out of that room passes through him first. Not on paper, never on paper. In conversations that happen in cars with no electronics, in rooms with no windows, and on phones that get destroyed after a single call. Let's call him Gray, not because that's his name, but because that's what he is, the gray space between what the public sees and what actually happens. And this is the story of what his life would look like. Gray was recruited young, not from Harvard, not from Yale, from a place most people wouldn't associate with power, a mid-sized state school in the Midwest. That's intentional. Ivy League graduates get tracked, they get profiled, they get watched. Gray was chosen specifically because nobody was watching. A professor with ties to an intelligence network noticed something in him during his second year, an ability to read people the way most people read books. Not emotions, motivations. He could sit in a room with 10 people and tell you within an hour who was lying, who was desperate, and who could be turned. By 25, he was working in a division that doesn't appear in any government org chart. By 30, he had helped engineer the rise of 2 governors and quietly ended the career of a senator who was becoming inconvenient. Not through blackmail, through architecture, placing the right people in the right positions, feeding the right stories to the right journalists, creating conditions where the target destroyed himself without ever knowing someone built the trap. By 40, Gray had one job: find the next vessel. A vessel is what people like Gray call a public figure who can be shaped. Not a puppet, that's too simple. A vessel is someone with real charisma, real instincts, and a real base, but who needs a structure around them that they'll never fully see. The ideal vessel believes every decision is their own. That's the art, not control. Influence so seamless it feels like free will. And then he found him, loud, unpredictable, polarizing. A man who commanded attention the way gravity commands objects, not by asking, but by existing. Most handlers would have run the other way. Gray didn't. Because he understood something others missed. Unpredictability isn't a weakness if you're the one who knows which direction the chaos will land. The work started years before any campaign. Small introductions. A consultant here, an advisor there. People who reported to Gray without the vessel ever knowing they were connected. A media strategy that looked organic but was engineered to the syllable. Controversies that seemed reckless but were calibrated to dominate exactly the right news cycles at exactly the right moments. Every outrage had a purpose. Every tweet had an architecture behind it. Not the words, but the timing. And here's where it gets lonely, because Gray can never be seen. Not at the rallies, not at the dinners, not in the photos. He watches everything from a distance, on screens, through intermediaries, through people who think they're the inner circle but are actually the outer wall. His wife thinks he works in private consulting. That's technically not a lie. She knows he travels a lot. She knows he can't always say where. She's stopped asking, not because she doesn't care, but because the answers never satisfy her anyway. His kids know him as the dad who shows up to half the soccer games and always seems distracted at dinner. His son once asked him what he actually does all day. He said, "I help people make decisions." That's the most honest thing he's ever told his family. The marriage is held together by routine, not passion. There are no explosive fights. There's something worse, a quiet distance that grows one missed birthday at a time. His wife once found a phone she'd never seen before in his jacket. He told her it was a work backup. She believed him, or chose to. Both options are equally sad. He missed his daughter's high school graduation because a political crisis required him to be in a room 3 time zones away, managing a situation that would later appear in the news as a surprising policy reversal. The public debated it for weeks. Pundits analyzed it on cable TV. Nobody knew that the entire thing was decided in a 40-minute conversation in a car parked outside a gas station in Virginia. That's the paradox of Gray's life. He shapes history, but can never be part of it. He is arguably one of the most powerful people alive, and yet he cannot tell a single human being what he does. Not his wife, not his children, not his best friend, who, for the record, he hasn't spoken to in 7 years, because maintaining close personal relationships is a security risk. Holidays are the hardest. Thanksgiving dinner with his family while 3 screens are running in his office upstairs, tracking a diplomatic situation in real time. Christmas morning opening presents with his kids while mentally running scenarios for a press conference happening in 48 hours. He is physically present and psychologically absent, and his family can feel it even when they can't name it. There are moments when he considers walking away. Usually late at night, usually after a drink, usually when the news is showing a clip of the man he built, and he feels nothing. No pride, no satisfaction, just the mechanical awareness that the machine is still running. But he never walks away, not because he can't, because he knows what would happen without him. The vessel would still be the vessel, but without the architecture, without the guardrails. And Gray has seen what happens when powerful people operate without guardrails. It's not pretty, so he stays. He stays in the gray. He watches from rooms that don't officially exist. He makes calls that will never be logged. He shapes a world that will never know his name. And every night, he goes home, kisses his wife on the forehead, and says, "Just another boring day at work." She nods. He pours a drink. The TV is on. The news is talking about a decision that will define the next decade. The anchor is asking, who advised the president on this? Nobody will ever know the answer, and that's exactly how Gray designed it.